Place, written and directed by Colton Kraus. Once the show starts, please hold applause until bows. This production is 60 minutes long and will have no intermission. Please, no flash photography, but video recording and photography without flash is encouraged. We would like to thank Spotlight Performing Arts for allowing us to use their space for this production. And now, please enjoy The Keeping Place.
This has been here for a long time.
It's heavy.
This one's still warm.
We're listening.
When I was 10 or 11, I found this ring during the summer. The band was bronze and it had some little square crystals that all wrapped around a big square crystal. Well, I was obsessed with magic back then, so of course it became my magic ring. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't even a teenager yet, and I had my very own magic ring. I remember I would go out to the backyard and sit on top of my favorite branch in the only tree that was big enough to hold me. And I'd stick my hand out and make the leaves move. On the bushes, on the branches, even the leaves on the ground if I believed hard enough. Of course, I know now it wasn't me who did that, and I probably even knew then, but it didn't matter. That ring went everywhere with me. During youth activities, trips, even the shower. I think it was that summer when I stopped believing in magic. I stopped using my handmade wands and spell books, but I still kept the ring. That's when I started thinking about how much the ring was worth. Not to me, but to others. I started thinking about how much I could sell it for one day. I remember I had said that very thing to my parents one day before stepping outside to play. Don't ask me what was going through my head, but I began throwing my ring up into the air to catch it. I did it again, and again, and again, till it didn't come back down. I looked everywhere for that ring, for my magic ring. I even asked my dad to check the roof, but we never found it. I looked for it every once in a while for a while until we moved. And sometimes I wonder, if I hadn't lost faith in its magic, would have I ever lost the ring in the first place?
I got the microwave from work, because they had replaced it with a newer one. And so, without thinking and without doing anything really, I just threw it in the back of my car and forgot about it for a while. So, that's where it stayed, until one night my dad said,
Dang it! The microwave's broken, but I wanted to make some popcorn.
to which I said, I have a microwave in my car. This made my dad and my sister stop and stare at me as if they were trying to decide if I was serious. But sure enough, I ran out to that car, I opened the trunk and pulled out an actual microwave. They were equally impressed and confused because it was so random, but also exactly what we needed. I don't know why it didn't strike me as strange at the time, but I was 16 and having a microwave in my car felt like a reasonable thing. Somehow, on the one night we needed a microwave, I had one the whole time.
Behind closed doors. I laugh louder than I need to.
I sing in the shower as loud as I can.
I bake little cookies I can keep to myself.
Practice words I'll never say.
I dance like no one is watching.
Behind closed doors.
My family and I play board games all night.
I write little notes to myself.
I pretend to understand things I don't.
I draw lines I will hide with my sleeve.
I count steps, cracks, breaths.
I laugh at jokes I shouldn't.
Behind closed doors.
It's the only place I can be myself.
I play music just for me.
Behind closed doors.
He tells me that I'm special.
Behind closed doors.
I pray to my God.
Behind closed doors. I disappear without leaving.
Behind closed doors. I used to have this friend that hated chocolate. When I found out, I was baffled. I mean, how can you not like chocolate? I gave him a lot of crap about that, but hey, you like what you like, right? Just because a lot of people like French fries doesn't mean everybody's gonna like French fries. Not everybody moves to the YMCA. They just don't. We don't question it. We don't tell them to try harder. We don't diagnose them. We just accept it. You know, it's okay to like pineapple on your pizza. It's okay to hate country music, and it's okay to like guys, even though I'm a guy. Right? When I was 7, I vividly remember going to the thrift store with my parents. We were digging through racks looking for clothes, and then all of a sudden, this guy walks out of the dressing room. I felt it somewhere. My stomach. My chest. I don't know, but I just remember it was immediate. And he had a ton of girls around him. They were laughing and fawning over him, and I remember smiling too. I said to my mom, I said, "Mom, I want him." It's like the temperature dropped. She grabbed my dad's arm and asked me to repeat myself. I did. Still smiling. I will never forget the way that they looked at each other, or the way they looked at me, like with an equal amount of disgust and disbelief that at the time I didn't have the language for, but now I unfortunately understand. Later, when we got home, they asked me to explain what I meant. But by that point, I knew something was wrong. Not because I was in trouble. Not because anybody had yelled, but because of the way the roof shifted. So I lied. I said I wanted him because I was jealous of him. I wanted all those girls around me. Something small to keep their minds off of it. But by the end of that night, they made sure I knew.
Boys don't like boys.
I hadn't even learned how to ride a bike! But I had learned how to hide myself. But hey, at least I like chocolate.
I think the thing that I keep questioning is family roles. Who's supposed to do what? My family wasn't very traditional. My dad cooked, my dad cleaned, my mom did too. They both worked, and it was just normal. But now, when I think about the future, I catch myself hesitating. Like, if I have kids one day, I agree that daughters should mow the lawn and take out the trash, because those are just skills that everyone should know how to do. But then I realize that means I have to do those things, so that they can actually see a woman doing them. And that's strange because I don't remember being specifically taught boys' jobs and girls' jobs. I think I just absorbed them. And what's strange is I feel very strongly that men should learn how to cook and clean and sew, no question. But when it comes to me learning more traditionally masculine things like building a closet or fixing a car, I hesitate. I want to know enough to get myself somewhere safely, but not so much that I'm the expert. And I don't love that about myself. And anytime we're at my grandma's house and the trash needs to be taken out, it's one of the boy cousins. But if dessert needs to be served, it's me and the girls. And someone will say,
I need a few strong men.
when most of the time, they just need able people, willing people. And yes, men aren't average stronger, that's biology, but not so much stronger that a woman can't fix a table. And what bothers me the most is when someone says,
That's a boy's job.
I think I'm just trying to figure out what my take on all of this is. What I want to keep, what I want to unlearn, and what I'm still afraid to let go of.
When I was 12 or 13, my dad had been diagnosed with a terminal illness and had decided he did not want extreme measures taken when the time came. I was the first person home every afternoon, which meant it was just me and him for a few hours. My mom had the conversation with me that if I came home and he wasn't breathing, it was my responsibility to stay calm and call her at work, and she would call the mortician. I was told explicitly not to call 911. I remember standing in the doorway after school, just listening before I said, "Dad?" out loud. Listening for a cough, for movement, for anything. It was humbling and horrifying to face the possibility of death almost daily. I don't think you're supposed to rehearse that kind of phone call at 12. But I did.
I think I grew up when my dad stole my golf club set and wallet to buy drugs. I was only 14, but I couldn't be a kid anymore. I just couldn't. I forced myself to grow up pretty fast.
I realized it was happening when I couldn't play all the time anymore. You have more responsibilities and your parents do less for you. And you have more time, but you don't really know what to do with it.
I don't remember when I stopped feeling like a kid, but I imagine it probably coincides with the time I stopped enjoying hugs from my mom.
I never felt like I had much of a childhood. I was very mature for my age and had to take on big responsibilities by the time I was 10. My mom was a single parent working multiple jobs to provide for my brother and me. So I took on watching him, helping with chores, and taking care of everything.
I still can't talk about when I stopped feeling like a kid. I just know it hurt.
When I was about 13, I was sitting in church when a group of kids my age started to walk to the front of the chapel. I didn't think much of it until my mom nudged me and pointed towards them. I immediately felt that drop in my stomach because I knew I hadn't practiced a song with anyone. Go up with them. I tried to tell them that I don't know what they're doing, and I definitely am not supposed to sing a song. At that point, I could already feel people staring around us, so I tried to make myself as small as possible. It's fine, just go. It's a group performance. I tried to shake my head, but she was being stern. And at that point, it felt worse to stay seated than to stand up. So I stood up and I started to walk to the front of the chapel, still hoping I was wrong about the entire thing. When I got there, I realized this was not a group performance. It was a duet. Two very serious vocalists were standing there, completely prepared, and I stood next to them. We exchanged a few confused glances, but no one could stop it before the music started. Oh, I have never heard this song in my life. I don't know the words, I don't know the melody, I don't know when I'm supposed to be singing. But that's when I remembered something my choir teacher once told me.
If you ever don't know the words, you can just mouth the word watermelon, and it'll look like you know what you're singing.
So that's what I did. I stood there smiling and silently mouthing the word watermelon the entire time. Once the song ended, I walked back to my seat, completely mortified. My mom was basically on the floor laughing, like literally on the ground, tears in her eyes.
I don't think you were supposed to be up there.
Thanks, Mom.
Ruby petals scattered beneath the stars, reflecting dreams from the starlit sky. Drops of red in a sea of green.
The moon, a master artist, brushes silver linings onto the shapes that should be frightening in the dark.
Blood red flowers, shadowed with night's thoughts, petals trembling like hell breath.
The air hums like an untamed orchestra,
The middle school concert of unidentified noises.
harmonizing with the nighttime regulars.
Crickets plucking melodies from the underbrush.
Ballerina leaves swirling in the wind.
Cars sighing as they roll along the highway.
their distant voices threading through the canyon.
It smells like open air, like wet earth with a hint of floral fun.
Until the wind shifts, pulling in a breath of fish from the reservoir's unseen edge.
The ground is damp and yielding beneath me, like walking on Mother Earth's own flesh.
Each step pressing our presence into her tender skin.
And the poppies, they move. They always move.
Swaying their ruby heads to the witching hour's chant.
Their petals adding rhythm to the night as the wind sweeps through, conducting.
We came here in the year of silence and distance.
When laughter felt like a stolen thing.
And touch was rationed like candlelight.
Here, secrets escape their treasure chests to spill into the soil to bloom with the poppies.
Worries melted into the earth, blooming aspirations beside the scarlet flowers, and for a moment, we belonged only to the present, to the wind, the dark coolness of June's nighttime, and to the stars that had seen it all before.
Stealing ourselves back to the daytime heat of the stalking sun.
Of course, we still watch for raccoons, the unseen nocturnal beasties lurking beyond the poppies.
But fear was only a passing shadow.
One we could forget if we grounded ourselves in the swaying field.
Listening to the flowers echo our love and laughter
into the wind. I always told myself I'd never be a stoner. I know that sounds dramatic, but I meant it. We all took DARE. Remember that? Say no, resist drugs and alcohol, like someone was constantly offering. Growing up in a small, very religious town, no one offered. Not in my circles. We were already the weird art kids, not athletes, not religious, just trying to belong somewhere. We found that in the art room. I didn't smoke until my second year of college. That's when the depression showed up. And the anxiety. I'd always been sunshine. That was the nickname. Loud, funny, fine. But I wasn't. The first time I smoked, I didn't feel anything. The second time, it was like I made out with a king-size Snickers bar. Fully serious, it was incredible. And suddenly there was this community. People I'd known for years were like, oh yeah, I smoke. They hadn't told me because they thought I'd judge them. Which is funny because I thought they'd judge me. For a while it was easy. We made art. We sat in circles. We talked about big ideas like we were going to change the world. My anxiety got quieter. Not gone, just manageable. And no one tells you this part. Once you start, you need more to feel the same. The whisper came back louder. Art got competitive, school got harder, the smoke circles got smaller. People graduated, moved on, got serious, and I kept chasing that first quiet. And so I stopped. And everything I'd been holding down came back up. louder, smarter, meaner. Now people call me aggressive or combative. You know, I prefer defensive or passionate of my art, but it doesn't matter. You can't escape identifiers like that, especially in a business where you must be at your best at all times. Once again, pressure, pressure, pressure. Pressure doesn't go away. It just changes shape. I found my mom's tiny weed stash in an Altoid tin, deep in her sock drawer when I was 12. Having literally no idea what it was, I ratted her out to my dad. He laughed, giggled like a schoolgirl. Oh, but their liquor cabinet, always open. Margaritas on Mondays, wine every night, beer commercials in between reruns of Friends. Dare to resist drugs and alcohol. This isn't okay, but this is. I always told myself I'd never be an alcoholic.
Hey guys, are you ready?
So, senior year of high school, senior trip. Everyone's been talking about it. Well, not to me. I don't drink. Everyone knew that. In my religion, you just don't. So I don't. It's not like a big deal or anything. It just is. But it seemed like they were always talking about it.
Jamaica?
The beach!
Swim up bars!
Yeah. Stuff like that. I didn't really say anything, I just kind of listened. I didn't want to be the one making it awkward or being like a downer friend or whatever. You know, I don't remember anyone actually asking me if I was going. We've all been together since freshman year. Same lunch tables, same classes, same everything. So I just kind of assumed that someone would ask. Then one day at school, I ran into my friend's brother in the hallway.
Why aren't you going?
No one invited me.
Oh.
That was it. Oh, like it made sense, like I had missed something obvious. I don't drink. Not because I don't like having fun, but because that's what I was taught, and that's what I believe, and they were supposed to be my friends. Anyway, doesn't really matter now.
One time, my friends and I decided to do something really stupid. Not toilet paper in houses. Do people even do that anymore? And not chugging a gallon of milk and running a mile. We decided to go to a buffet and eat as much as we possibly could. The winner would get glory, I guess, bragging rights, and probably a horrible stomachache. The whole way there, we're taking bets. It sounds like an auction. I can eat 3 plates.
I can do 4. Actually, 5.
6. 8. By the time we pull into the parking lot, it gets serious. We sit down and we go to town. Plate 1. Plate 2.
2.
Plate 3. No. Tristan gets up to go to the bathroom. He's out. Tapped. We keep going. Plate
4.
Plate 5. You know, the trick was to have a lot of fruit and salad, especially salad. It took up a lot of room on your plate, and you had to eat fast before your stomach registered what was going on.
Plate 6.
About 40 minutes in, we start slowing down. The waitresses are staring. Our pants are barely fitting, but I am not about to lose. It becomes clear to me that Zach and I have the same question in mind. Do I give up? Or throw up? Truce. Truce. And just like that, we both won. We pay. Great price for a buffet, by the way. And we get to the car, start singing, blasting music, like nothing happened, when suddenly, my stomach drops. You know that feeling when you're holding in a fart and your stomach rumbles? Yeah, this was that. But if that feeling was a 3 on the Richter scale, this was an 8. Maybe a 9. I start screaming, pull over, I'm going to do.
You can't be serious.
You want to find out? Do I still win?
At some point, and it's different for everyone, you enter this time in life where you have to become self-reliant. For me, it started around 13. That's when kid stuff kind of went away. Life got harder. You had to survive on your own more, figure things out. But that said, I love kids. I love seeing their excitement over new things, the way they see the world before it gets heavy. And I still believe in magical things. I believe in fairies,
Unicorns?
Shooting stars.
wishes, magical places,
The boogeyman.
Other worlds.
guardian angels, true love.
Knights.
And princesses.
Santa Claus.
I see magical things every day. In my mind, of course. I think I love nature so much because of that. It makes you feel like anything is possible. I don't rule out anything magical or anything that brings happiness. So at heart, I can still be a kid. But I also see the harsh realities now. Every day. And it breaks my heart. Then I'll look up at the sky or see something beautiful in nature. And I think, why can't all the world see this? I know the God I believe in has given us everything we need. It's already here. In this world. In each other. Maybe if we were there for one another the way we were meant to be, maybe we wouldn't feel so lost.
When I was young, everyone would tell me I'm bright for my age, just because I'd seen my ABCs before the other toddlers.
What a bright little guy.
He's gonna be a genius one day.
He is so bright for his age.
As you get older, bright for your age sort of fades away. You're still bright, but it's less impressive. Now everyone can sing their ABCs, and you're slowly cascading your way into being average.
You're in honors math with the other kids?
You're on the honor roll again. Good job. Here's a participation trophy. Everyone did great.
Then once you pass a certain age, that's all anyone focuses on. Not your specialness, just where you are or aren't at your age.
At your age, I was already married.
I was traveling the world.
I started my first business at your age.
I had no idea what I was doing back then.
And then finally, you don't feel special. You're no longer bright or smart for your age, you're just your age. You're not behind, you're not ahead, you're just average.
I was completely lost back then. I had 2 kids with the 3rd on the way.
I was struggling to graduate.
I started law school.
Somewhere along the way, I lost being bright. But I still remember what it felt like.
I stopped believing in magic.
I remember sitting with my mom.
I was told explicitly not to call him. I loved dancing because it's the only time I ever did.
I lost my grandfather when I was 8. He had Parkinson's, so while I knew him, he didn't really have the strength to talk. So I never heard his voice. People would tell me about him instead. They told me how strong he was, how dependable, how he used to be before his body changed. That's how I learned who he was, secondhand. I still sat with him, though. I would talk, he'd listen, and he would never pull away. He couldn't. The only thing I have left of him are this picture of him in his Utah Highway Patrol uniform and this small military figurine. They're not the only things that stayed, but they're some of the things that stuck. The photo shows him standing tall, still, like nothing could knock him over. And the figurine was the same way. I think that that's so important to me because it tells me something that he couldn't. That he was strong, that he stood his ground, how he was before his body failed him. I never heard his voice, but I don't feel like I missed him. I knew him.
I really miss the normal days. Not the special events or big holidays. Just ordinary afternoons with nothing important happening. I still remember the sound of my house in the late afternoon. When everyone was home, but not really talking to each other. Just TV noise from another room, somebody opening and closing the refrigerator without ever deciding what they wanted. It was nice, knowing where everyone was without having to ask. You know, I think I had my childhood at exactly the right time. I got to rewind VHS tapes before returning them. I watched Hannah Montana after school. I played the Wii until my arm hurt from swinging the remote too hard. It was all so simple, in a way that I didn't appreciate.
The world felt quieter.
Maybe not quieter. Maybe we just haven't realized yet how much there was to pay attention to.
I miss everything feeling smaller. Fewer expectations, fewer labels, fewer things to keep up with, and fewer people to disappoint. It's such a bittersweet feeling wanting those moments back.
But still being grateful that you had them in the first place.
I wonder what the world would be like if the colors were still that bright. If weekends still felt long. If coming home meant dropping your backpack and not thinking about anything until dinner. I don't actually want to go backwards. I miss how steady everything was. Like nothing was racing me. I think I miss when I didn't know I was going to miss it.
We didn't know.
Nostalgia is a weird feeling. I feel it all the time. It's like being reminded that fun is something you can forget how to do. You know, I still have fun. I still do fun things. It's just different. You know, the other day I was playing with my baby cousin and he said to me, "Look, can you see all those dinosaurs?" And I said, "Yes, I can see them." But of course I couldn't. I remember when I didn't have to pretend. When I could go outside and actually see the dinosaurs. Now I know they're not there, even when I say they are. And that's when it hit me. It's not that I can't anymore. It's just that I don't do it as often. Like imagination is a muscle. I stopped using it because I didn't think I needed it, but watching him, it made me realize that I could, if I wanted to.
Let your niche nuggets of nostalgia stay.
Like gems unearthed in the darkest mind.
That's what happens when you let your mind stray.
Let your niche nuggets of nostalgia stay.
Do you remember how we used to play? Careless yet careful, clamoring yet calm.
Your colors still weigh what they used to weigh?
Or have your yellows faded to sand gray beige and electric blues become ghoulish grays?
Please, tell me of the thoughts you forgot today.
What wonders did you once spot through youth's rose-tinted spectacles?
Do you remember basking in the sun all day? Fingers sticky from orange creamsicle residue. Scrapes and cuts merely battle scars of the afternoon's fantastical war.
Barefoot in summers too golden to fray.
Who knew your taste buds could be vehicles to the there before, reminding you of simpler times and sillier rhymes?
It's true. Sometimes pain is the price you pay from plucking past pretties from back in the day.
Yet keep them still.
Like lightning bugs in a jar.
Why have you let those childhood goodies fade away?
Don't let growing old turn your heart cold.
Hold tight to what crafted you.
Let your niche nuggets of nostalgia stay.
It starts with a smell. Homemade noodles, chicken soup, thick in the air, and then that turns into my grandma's kitchen. And that turns into the white sunbeam mixer that always felt like it was burning while we made cookies. The three of us pressed up against the counter, the smell of something overheating mixed with the sugar.
My dad's Old Spice, which turns into Thanksgiving. The smell of cooked food, dishes in the sink, nail polish, sharp and chemical, which turns into being small and standing still while someone holds your hand steady. Lentils on a rainy afternoon, pretending not to like them and eating them anyway. Hot mothballs in a Montana cabin. Dusty air and sunlight cracking through a small window. Popcorn from Main Street at Disneyland. The smell of warm butter and pavement heat mixing together. Sound comes next. The sound of buttons on a controller being smashed. The plastic clicking slow yet uneven. Someone yelling at the screen from across the room and the low hum of the TV that filled it.
Enya playing on car speakers softly before a 5 a.m. flight. The music mixing with the quiet crinkling of McDonald's breakfast wrappers and the distant sounds of the highway before dawn.
Then feelings, not emotions, but sensations. Canada in the fall, wet leaves crunching under your shoes as you run through the muddy woods until someone calls you back. Wyoming, Iowa, fireflies blinking in the cornfields on a night that is heavy and humid with growing things.
Sometimes I'll be in a grocery store and catch a smell that doesn't belong there, or hear Enya playing over store speakers. And then, suddenly, I'm not there anymore. I'm in my grandpa's garage, or in the back seat before sunrise, standing on warm pavement and realizing I've grown. And then it's over. And I'm just standing there with whatever I came to buy. It's strange what stays.
And no one knows what's remember sitting with I love dancing as a kid.
My very first ornament, this little figurine with a bell. Every year, growing up, I would place the ornament on the very bottom branch of the Christmas tree because I was convinced that I would hear Santa putting my presents there. Every year, I listened. Every year, I waited. I'm 24, and I still keep this tradition. Sleep in heavenly peace.
I have a special connection to Christmas. I don't really know why, I just do. I did a lot of choir when I was younger, so there were a lot of churches, auditoriums, folding chairs that made too much noise when people moved around. I don't really know if my mom saw any of those, always working. I think she did. I hope she did. I also love the food. Cookies, candies, pecan pie, eggnog. I really like eggnog. We used to spend entire weekends making trays full of candy and cookies for family and friends. Removing crinkly clear wrappers from caramels to melt down, or toasting shredded coconut in the microwave, sneaking in bites whenever we could. My favorites were these little cream cheese mints that we would press into red and green sprinkles. My mom didn't make those mints this year. She said she didn't have to help. I wanted to help, but I just didn't know how anymore. I guess I just love the spectacle of it. You know, the trees, the mistletoe, the reds and greens and golds, Christmas lights. I love Christmas lights. On Christmas Eve, we'd all pile into a car and we'd just drive. One year we found this massive house with this huge window that looked like the living room was 2 stories tall. And the tree inside looked endless. Afterward, we'd stop by 7-Eleven for hot chocolate. It was the tradition, nothing fancy, just paper cups with plastic lids and too much sugar. We don't really do that anymore. I'll still get hot chocolate though, for myself or with friends. It's strange. Most of my favorite Christmas memories are tied to someone I don't really know how to be around anymore. But somehow that hasn't ruined it for me. If anything, it's the opposite. Because of her, Christmas still feels big and warm, even if we aren't. I think that's what I'm grateful for. Not that it was perfect, but the little things that made it good.
When I was 6, my family had decided to buy presents for a family in need. I remember going to deliver the presents to their house on Christmas Eve and seeing that they didn't even have a Christmas tree. They had a paper tree taped to their wall. That hit me so strongly, even as a little kid. They had so little. I remember crying as I went to bed that night, feeling so sad for my family. So grateful that my parents had given them something because they had so little and we had plenty. But that paper Christmas tree taped to the wall stayed in my head for a long, long time.
What if one Christmas, we all got things we miss?
Free weekends where I still feel fulfilled.
Burning CDs and writing Sharpie titles.
Picking out movies to rent at Blockbuster.
McDonald's play place.
Listening into my sister's conversation through the landline. Cheaper eggs.
Colorful restaurants.
Our family's old Nintendo 64.
Zoo house!
Computer games on a disc.
Maybe it's not the things we miss.
It's who we were when we had them.
You think after all these years I'd learned to be more prepared? I was 19 at the time, which is old enough to know better and young enough to ignore that information completely. One of my biggest cases of negligence at the time was deciding to go Christmas shopping using the transit system. It was 2 months since I'd been kicked out of my house. I parked at the train station and tried to treat the whole thing like a big adventure instead of what it actually was, which was me ignoring my life's problems. I got on the train, and after a 45-minute train ride, I got off at a giant outdoor mall. I walked around for a few hours pretending to be a person that actually knew what they were buying, but in the end, I only bought one thing: a stuffed reindeer. Because I'm emotionally consistent. But that's when things started getting really bad. I checked my phone. 6%. I hadn't brought a battery, I hadn't brought a charger, I hadn't charged it on the train. I had, however, bought a stuffed reindeer. So clearly my priorities were excellent. The next train was leaving in 30 minutes, or an hour and 30 minutes, which are two very different times when you're outside in the cold and emotionally and financially unprepared for adulthood. So I ran because I didn't know who I'd call if I got stranded. Also because running sometimes makes you feel like you're solving your problems faster than you actually are. When I got to the train station and had already left, I checked my phone again. 3%. At this point, I had a very sophisticated survival plan. Look everything up on my phone very quickly before it died forever. There was a bus station 2 blocks away that would take me to the train in an hour. So I got there as fast as I could and waited. My phone was dead by the time I got there, so I had no idea what time it was. I have no idea how long I'd been there. So I just sat there in the cold, in the snow, in the quiet that seems really, really loud when when you're on your own for the first time. But not completely alone. I had my stuffed reindeer, and I was glad that I had something to take home with me.
When I was 17, I was in a really, really bad spot mentally. And I remember one night feeling like it wasn't worth it anymore, so I walked to a bridge where trains passed underneath. And I just waited. When a train started to come, I could feel my heart pounding and I felt something pull me back. And I walked away from the tracks. When the train passed, I felt nauseous. But I also felt saved. And I knew from that moment that I was meant to stay on this earth. And I thank God every day for whatever it was that pulled me back.
When I was 10, I had my first suicidal thought. It happened not long after we moved away from our childhood home and everything that felt familiar. Suddenly, I was in a new place, surrounded by new people, and I didn't feel stable or safe anymore. Around that same time, my dad's abuse began. It was loud and violent, not always with his hands, but with his words, the way he chased me around the house and threw things and broke things that mattered to me, and constantly threatened me. And he treated my mom the same way. Instead of hiding, I learned to fight back. I stood up to him. It led to screaming matches that lasted for hours with me standing between him and my mom. It was like facing a lion and defending a mouse. There was never a fight between them that I didn't step into. I remember sitting in a closet with my mom while she cried because of him, trying to comfort her, even though I was just a kid. I never felt like I had much of a childhood. To grow up too fast. And yet, when I hear the music from the Nutcracker, something inside of me shifts. The waltz of the flowers, the sugar plum fairy, those sounds take me back to the only time I remember feeling like a kid. When I was dancing. Whenever those songs play, I feel that same rush of excitement and adrenaline that I used to feel right before stepping on stage. And for a moment, everything else disappears. But then, the grand pas de deux begins, and I can't hold it together. I burst into tears every time. I feel like it holds both sides of my childhood. The beauty I found in dancing, and the weight, everything happening at home. It reminds me of how quickly I had to grow up. How much of that time I was just trying to survive. He gave me this when I was 15, back when he thought he was a failure. Little does he know, he's more of a failure to me now than he ever was back then.
When I was in elementary school, they wouldn't let me bring action figures into class, so I had to make do with what they would let me have.
First grade is a year of firsts. First friends, first recess, or in my case, my first plastic surgery.
Every time I think about you, I cry. You're the only person who does that to me.
I only find peace on stage pretending to be someone else. Because it's the only time I don't have to be myself.
My grandma wished to see how this might bellow as I ran. And I remember that was the first time and led to the first last time when I was full of wonder.